Hello folks, and welcome to Tippcast with myself, Shane Stapleton, as always with the head of sport, Menina Guardian, Shane Brophy, and there's a huge amount of Tipperary GAA going on this coming weekend. Obviously, it's semi-final time, relegation final time. We're going to talk about the football quarterfinals that happened last weekend. But Shane, I wanted to draw on your own experience from Laura the last 2 years. So it's not too long ago that you were down at intermediate. This year, senior level, one game, it didn't go well against Nina. But other than that, very, very competitive in the relegation semi-final, relegation this weekend. But I'm just wondering, based on the journey the last few years and looking at teams like, for example, Golden and Moneygall, who seem to have young, strong teams coming, like the difference between intermediate and senior, Tip, is it fine margins? Like, are there huge lessons to be learned on the way? What's it like?
I'd say it's there's no doubt there is a step up. But like if the work is put in, it's bridgeable. Like it's I'd say that a lot of I suppose to go back what we did. I suppose we had a few years at Seamus Arena where it's like when we got relegated, we had a lot of the ground. We had plenty of experience of playing the Premier Intermediate teams, which is maybe why we were able to go straight up and go and win that championship. Was maybe Borlahan weren't able to, they had a few injuries, but also like they had been junior a few years ago, so like they were coming from a lower base. But look, that's not to say any of the four teams that are in the Premier Intermediate semi-finals this weekend can't get up and establish themselves. But look, over the last 3 years, like we won it last year, we were in the relegation. Ross Gray won it the year before that, we're in the relegation this year. Templary won it the year before that, they're in relegation. So like that, but like Ross Gray and Templary have had years where they established themselves. So like it's once you get up there, I suppose my mentality is it's easier to stay in senior than trying to get up there, if you know what I mean. All you need is maybe 1 or 2 wins, and like it just gives you a chance to establish yourself. And look, I would find that the pace of senior hurling's a lot. Just the speed of the ball, the way to move the ball, you're definitely noticeable among the established teams. Like if you hold the ball in possession more than 2 seconds, you're in trouble. Like they move. They make their decision within 1 second where to distribute the ball. Like it's like nearly like hot potato stuff. I don't know if you noticed that in Dublin. It's if you really can't take 2 or 3 seconds on the ball to decide where a pass is going, because it nearly gives defenses a chance to get set.
Yeah, well, on an individual level, if you wait for the ball to come to you rather than going to meet the ball, that's when you get caught out. And that's what I see in the difference between tiers, whether it's in Dublin or Tip or anywhere like that. You've always got to be on the move and get your head up as quickly as possible, because the days of obviously there's always going to be a place for long ball, but if you go long ball all day, you'll get found out very, very quickly.
Oh, yeah,
look at Nina against Thurles the last day out. Redden and Ronan Maher's handling. You just can't do it.
The other opposition half back line will sit back 2 or 3 yards and just cut off the space. And it was something we were weak at for a long time, was maybe lads on the ball and to give a pass. And I think that's the end of my involvement in the move. And that's why I always think that the clubs that don't play even a bit of junior football are at a big disadvantage, because that off the ball run and that support play is such a big help. And I remember when we played McCarthy a few years ago, a couple of times in championship, and we were chasing shadows the whole time. Why? Because they had a football tradition where they were comfortable on the ball. They always had options, or lads coming off the shoulder, and you need to have that little bit of mix to your game. Like it adds an extra string to your bow. Like, I'm not saying we go all in football, but there are elements of football which help the modern hurling game at the moment.
Okay, let's move on to the Tipperary hurling semi-finals this weekend. We'll be delving into the different levels, but we'll start off with Tumi Vara against Moycarkey Burris. And one of the first things that I note from the preview, which is in the Menina Guardian, and obviously you can read about all of the previews for the big matches this weekend and reviewing stuff that happened at the weekend there. Nice little shot there, the Burris under 15s, having North Glory. But Andrew Ryan, the lock, he seems to be a doubt for Toom coming into this game, and that would force a bit of a rejig for Ken Dunn.
Yeah. So speaking to Ken, like he carried. He felt a bit of an injury before the Moycarkey game and aggravated it a bit. So, be interesting to see whether they get him, strap him up and get him out there. Like calves are very, very delicate. So, it probably will force a rejig. You're probably looking at maybe Jake Ryan going into the full back line, and I just pull up the team sheet from the last day to see who might come in. 1 second there. Look, he's probably pound for pound one of the best club fullbacks in the country in the county for a long number of years. Like so, look, Josh Poole probably would be a like for like replacement, but he's young. But like I think Ken Dunn is not. He's not afraid of throwing in youngsters, and I suppose they are playing. If you're playing a more experienced team, you might go for more experience. But maybe the fact that Moycarkey are in their first semi-final in 40 years, they'll be inexperienced a little as well. So yeah, there's no doubt if Andrew Ryan can't play, it would be a big loss.
And the last day out, we saw Kyle Shelley coming off the bench, saw Joe Egan coming off the bench. These are players with Tipperary underage experience in recent years. Do we imagine any changes for Moycarkey?
Just speaking from Eddie Brennan, not particularly. Like he was saying, building up to the Kildangan game, their biggest issue was the starting 15. Is like they do, as you said, they do have options. Like you look at, like when I saw that thing, that Kyle Shelley couldn't start against get a starting spot against Kildangan, you think, God, they have options. Like David Costigan, he's only about 18, 19 years of age, a very, very good young hurler. Niall Heffernan, former underage Tipperary player, like they have depth. Like they're actually very, very, and that's where they sort of mirror each other in some ways. Like Tumi Vara's bench is very, very strong as well. Like Jake Hackett comes on regularly around the 40th minute. Very, very good. Conor O'Mara came on against Nina and came on against Brackens in both those games in the North Championship in the county, got a couple of points in play each. So, like, I suppose, yeah, they mirror each other some ways in terms of when they go to the bench, they actually have options. Yeah, it's an interesting one for me. Like you have both are like Tumi Vara who have 21 county championships, Moycarkey have 12, but it feels like a novel pairing, doesn't it? It's sort of in a modern sense. Like I'm sure maybe people of the older vintage would have memories of Moycarkey and Tumi Vara dominating the scene, but they actually would have dominated in different eras. Like when Moycarkey were winning their seniors in the 80s, Tumi Vara were only an intermediate team, and when Tumi Vara were dominating the 90s, Moycarkey were senior, but they're sort of, they were on the slide a bit and went down to intermediate for a couple of years. So, yeah, it's everything's like the fact that Tumi Vara have been in the semi-final last year, I think it'll stand to them. Like I think they're further down the road in their development than Moycarkey are. But that's not to say Moycarkey can't win the game either. Like as Ken Dunn said to me yesterday, it's probably a tougher game for Tumi Vara than it is for Moycarkey, if you know what I mean. Like the expectations that people expect Tumi Vara to win. And like if you played this match as a group game, I'd nearly call it 50-50. But like there's like when the draw was made, like you sort of like Tumi Vara, both sides would have wanted each other. But if you were putting the favours tag on a team, it would be Tumi Vara, but they're slightly further down the road than Moycarkey are.
Yeah, and like Ken Dunn was saying to you in the paper, and obviously check out the quotes there, folks. But he was talking about getting to the North final. He reckons they have room for improvement, and like, other than the first half against Burrisleigh, they've been strong in the championship. But he was talking about some of the, what they've done with the team this year. And, he was talking about, we've introduced Jack Hackett and Josh Powell this year. Barry O'Connell has been added as Pan Limerick man. Conor O'Farrell has been a revelation in the middle of the field. Then he was talking about how previously he's played with Darren Delaney and how cute he is up in the forward line. So they've definitely evolved this year.
Yeah, no, I definitely the last two games, like Darren Delaney has sort of coming into his own. Like he's a very experienced player, played a lot in midfield in the half back line, but as Ken said, maybe he started out in the forwards, and like he's not. You see him get on the ball, and you think, God, speed up how he uses it, but he rarely wastes the ball. Like he he'll always find if the score is on, he'll take it. But primarily, if he can give it to a man in a better position, he will. Like, and I just think he's just his assuredness on the ball. It sort of takes a bit of the pressure maybe off Mark McCarthy and on Kevin, Darren McCarthy, Jack Delaney. But I'd agree with Ken. Like, I think they are a better team than last year, but I'd say they're a very even team. They're a very functional. There's Darren McCarthy. There's no real stars to them. Is it like when you watch Toom, Shane? You don't see flash, but you see very, very confident. They don't beat themselves a lot of the time. This Tumi Vara team
and hard working, and
very hard working. That's one thing Eddie Brennan said. Like if they don't match the work rate of Toom on Saturday evening, they'll come up short on the scoreboard.
And I think any supporter base, they want their team to be hard working. They want them to be defiant. They want them to play like men. But like,
and it's a lot like what Toom's team were when they're dominated. Like they dominated, but yet very few of them, maybe bar Tommy Dunn, started for Tip. Like their wheel in Toom was their strength, maybe rather than the individuals that went into maybe Tommy and as John O'Brien probably later in his career started to click for him at Tip, but there weren't too many that really started for Tip apart from Jono and Tommy.
Yeah, the belief with Moycarkey Burris must be huge, because if they can beat Killadangan after falling well behind, and in the last number of years Killadangan have had the edge over Toom. Ipso facto we'll go and beat Toom as well. I know it doesn't work that simply, but certainly in terms of belief, they're not going to be short of it, even if other people are assuming that Toom should come through here.
Yeah, that's a massive opportunity. Like, and it's something I asked Eddie Brennan about yesterday. Like, was as much maybe the last few weeks about getting lads refocused. Was like you don't want beating Killadangan in that fashion to be your year. Like, you think the draw is after. Like, if you were offered the draw of a semi-final, do you want Lockmore or do you want Tumi Vara? What's your best chance of winning a semi? It's Tumi Vara, and that's not that's I think most people would accept that. So, like, why not build from here? Why not be like Kilrowan, who were sort of unfancied in 2022 and sort of come from the pack and go win it? Like, strike while the iron's hot now. Lads are informed. They have depth. They get to a final and even if you'll go in as raging underdogs that you'll have against whoever, but then it builds experience for next year. There might be a few lads within the parish that aren't committing. You'll get a few more lads on board. It'll be easier to get guys to do the S&C work maybe next spring to have you better and stronger next year. There might be one or two lads that have gone abroad, might come home thinking, God, if I commit to Moycarkey now, I'll have a great chance of winning a senior championship. Plus, look, they have a very strong tradition down there.
And just in terms of coming from the pack and winning the county title, like Thurles won 4 in a row back in 2017, but include that 2017, that the next 7 years no team has retained the title.
Yeah.
So you've got to feel like, we have a chance here. You just don't know whether it's Toom or Moycarkey Burris, and maybe not too many are fancying either at the start of the season. But the door is open.
Oh yeah, and I think this is. I think we're in a brilliant window in Tip, and I do think a dominant club team helps your inter-county team, and when Tip were going well, we had Thurles Sarsfields were going very well, and I do think that the worm will turn in that. In a few years' time, we could have a dominant club team. You think if maybe the Thurles Og youngsters come through, Mike Murray and Rossiter and Minogue, that Thurles Sarsfields will be strong again. Holy Cross are coming like a train. Like they're in the under 19 county final. They're in the minor A final. Speaking of that, the minor A final next weekend, repeat of Thurles Og and Holy Cross. Geez, I know it's fixed for Temple-Area. I don't know what time, but geez, that's definitely a game to try and get to for anybody that maybe wants to get outside of the marquee matches. Like, that's going to be a cracker. Like, so like, I know Moycarkey won a mid-minor A championship last year. Like, they lost the county final to Holy Cross after, but like they're doing fantastic work. Like, so sure, look, why not strike now and like to have a man who's been there and done it all with Eddie Brennan in terms of winning with Kilkenny, like as a player. So a man who you can't ask for anything better in terms of experience of what maybe how to get ready for a semi-final like this.
And neck on the block time, who's going to win it?
Oh, geez, I think this is very tight for me. Like, I don't think I've gone for Toom just purely, and they're further slightly down the road than Moycarkey, but would I be surprised if Moycarkey won not a bit? It's that they have loads of talent in their team.
Yeah, and Toom are the only North team left in it. Yeah, I think it's going to be a puck of a ball. But I think Toom will just about find a way, and maybe Darren McCarthy will prove to be the match winner on the day.
Yeah, like he'll be like that. I suppose he'll be a lot of the attention, and I suppose, yeah, I think if Moycarkey can try and keep him quiet, it'll go a long way towards winning it. But like Toom aren't completely reliant on him. I think of the 26 points Toom got against Bracken's, 13 of them came from other players as well. So like they have, while he does get the lion's share of their scores, they're not completely reliant on him.
And I wonder, will Max Hackett, like he got the winning goal the last day, but will he be more prominent throughout in terms of scoring?
Yeah, he was quieter by all accounts, and he was only shoved in full forward. And I suppose, speaking to a couple of people, maybe he was maybe fortunate not to be subbed off, that he was so ineffectual in the game. But look, there's a bit of class about him. He looks extremely strong and fit at the moment. I think I was surprised maybe he wasn't in with Tip last year, just in terms of trying to build himself up. As like he has, for me, he's like a Jamie Byrne type of a player. I think that sort of all action engine type guy in the middle of the field that Tipperary probably could do with it at the moment. It's
going to be a 9th championship game in 10 weeks for Lockmore.
Yeah.
And like, if any team is going to find a weakness, it's probably Thurles, because they've had a real chance to prepare for the last couple of weeks. Do you think it makes much of it? People keep saying, they're used to doing it or whatever. But like the last 2 weeks, Thurles have been able to sit down and plan, right, what way are we going to go about Noel McGrath? Who are we going to put on John? And as much as you can practice for it in training, go after that in training. Whereas Lockmore were playing football last week, and they probably only did a bit of a tune-up last night, a recovery set.
No, not particularly, because they're used to it.
But look, my experience of dual players up here in Dublin is a dual player comes back. If you're playing week on week, he comes back to you on Tuesday. He's not doing anything at the Tuesday session, and in general, you're not doing much in a Thursday session anyway.
Yeah, I get that, but I just think it's nearly mentally ingrained in the Lockmore players about what's needed at this time of the year. And no, I get what you're saying. And I asked Damon Kelly about that yesterday. That like looking under get the experience of looking under that Lockmore bonnet and seeing what makes them tick. And as you said, look, when he was approached to take on the job, he knew that football is as important to them as hurling. Like, and I suppose you can't just go in and say we're focusing on hurling. Like you'd be ran out of the place. So, but that's not to say Eamon Kelly and his selectors, like while they wouldn't have done an awful lot. Well, there's no hurling with them probably up to last night since the quarterfinal win. They would have been planning for Lockmore themselves. Was like it's what's his name? Martin Maro, the former Kilkenny trainer.
Michael Dempsey.
Michael Dempsey. He's more or less running the football show. So like Eamon and his selectors, the Scart Ryan and stuff, they would have been focusing on getting their matchups right. And like as he said himself, you trust the players, and I think what we've seen from Lockmore maybe the last decade, they deserved, or they've earned the trust to know exactly what they want to do. And I do, and the fact that injuries haven't really scared them this year. Okay, they've picked up a couple. Ed Maher went off against Killerwan. He had a bit of a calf trouble. He's touch and go, and Philip O'Connell. But I think there's no. the fact that they went very heavy on S&C at the start of the year with Paul Tracy, like Paul would have with Bo Hurlahan, Monleen, very, very highly respected. And the fact that they're finishing matches strong, like they were preparing for this scenario where they could be playing week on week from the middle of June up to the end. Look, they're still standing on both counts. Like they finished they were very comfortable in the football last weekend against Brackens. I never thought they were going to lose the game at all at any stage. I always thought they were comfortable against Killerowan. I know they got a bit of a helping hand with the goals, but I just thought these guys are going to figure it out. And I think in every game this year, they've finished the strongest team. They've scored, they've powered down the home straight in terms of scores. And like I see the bookies have Sarsfields as favourites, but gee, I think Lockmore are unbeaten this year in hurling, including a win over Sarsfields. They just know how to get it they fully believe in what they're about.
Yeah, going into the last game against Killerowan, Aaron Morgan shoved up on Noel McGrath, and to great effect for the vast majority of the game. And I'm thinking, right, okay, Lockmore want to make sure Ronan Maher can't sit and be free and dictate the game, and Thurles be thinking we're not letting Noel McGrath. And I'd be wondering, if you're Lockmore, you're Eamon Kelly, are you thinking, well, do you know what we'll do? We'll put Noel back up centre forward and force Ronan to mark him. And if the ball goes in between the two of them, that's a 50-50 ball. Either player could win, both are quality players. But Ronan will have to mark Noel McGrath, or else Thurles will have to bring back an extra man. So if I was Lockmore, that's the first thing I'd be doing.
Yeah, I don't see Lockmore doing that. And I just going on the matches between the sides the last few years, Thurles haven't tended to man mark. And I suppose it's probably in their DNA. They always have players. They'll feel we can out hurl the opposition, and I just think Noel McGrath is too good a player that he'll always find the ball. And like in the last 5 or 10 minutes against Killerowan, while he was quiet up to that, he managed to get key possessions on the ball when they needed to.
But isn't that because Killerowan panicked and started blasting it up the field?
Maybe a little, but on the flip side, I don't think Lockmore will be as naive in terms of Nina were in terms of hitting long ball down the centre. I think they'll play the corners. They're very comfortable in possession. They just won't do that. They won't play into Ronan Maher. So like they'll play it into the corners to Liam McGrath. Be interesting to see what they do with Kieran McGrath or Kieran McCormack, who starts there, because Kieran McCormack was very good against Sarsfields in the mid-championship match back in June. And
he's earned the right to start with his cameo the last day.
He has, but Kieran McGrath has been brilliant off the bench in all the games. So look, I think they'll get a bounce off either. I think they might go with Kieran McCormack, just maybe slightly younger, maybe a bit more legs, and have the experience of Kieran McGrath off the bench. Like so, Liam Tracy is back from injury. He did the big strapping on his hand against Killerowan. I was actually surprised to see him play football last week, and I just thought maybe with the hand strapped and it might be harder to play football, maybe if with a hand injury. But obviously he's right. So like he was very, very good in the hurling championship early in the year before he picked up that hand injury. So like they're strong. Like it's a brilliant matchup. I don't think this will be as. Remember last year's semi-final and that dirty Saturday night in Thurles? It was. You never felt Lockmore were in the game. But I think this year they're fitter, they're stronger, they're more confident. I think they'll be a way different animal this year for Thurles. But then we're looking to what about Thurles too? Like, look, they were comfortable against Nina, but I thought the game plan Nina brought was easy for Thurles. Like Lockmore just not going to stand off them in this game. Like they're so used to playing each other that they know what ruffles Thurles' feathers.
So I want to tease out this Noel McGrath point once more. Let's say he does play the withdrawn role. Who do you see Thurles pushing up on him? Because they're obviously not just going to let him go around and dictate the play, or are
they? I think they probably will put somebody on him. I think Connor Stakelin is sort of a nuggety type player who might might sacrifice himself for the team. Obviously, when he goes well for Tip, it's in that sort of hard working midfield role. Like, so he's potentially one. Who else? Like Cathal Maloney, if he could be one to sacrifice himself. Then you don't know what way they're going to set up. Like, will they? Like Lee McCormack was very, very good the last day, but will they think maybe Lockmore maybe vulnerable in the full back line? Will we start Paddy Creedon and a bit of power at the edge of the square? Like, so it all depends on what Pádraig Maher sees as do I need the quickness of McCormack, or do I need the power of Creedon? Like, so like he has options now in terms of where he wants to go as well.
Neck on the block then, who's going to win?
I've gone for Lockmore. I just think they're pouring nicely. They just don't panic. I think if this is in the melting pot with 10-15 to go, I just think they'll find a way to win like they did in the 2001 county final. Remember, it was the drawn match. They came from behind to get the equaliser and then won the final. I'd say it's one Pádraig Maher would love to win, considering like I suppose it was his last game ever, like, and in fact it was a loss. Like, so I just hope it's a good game. I think the weather on Sunday is iffy, to say the least, by the looks of it, rain, which might make it. It might actually make it a great if it's a low scoring scrappy affair. It might be compelling, if you know what I mean. Like, if the rain affects it, but it might just turn it into a compelling spectacle.
Yeah, I'd be saying Thurles myself. And I know you mentioned earlier that they lost in the mid to Lockmore. That was back in June, and since then they've fairly been dismissing teams: Mullinahone, Moycarkey, Burris, Roscrea, Nina, and I
do think they'd have a massive respect for Lockmore. And you know, when you have a respect for a team, maybe you mightn't try things that you ordinarily would against other teams, because you for fear that if it goes wrong, you get I just think there's a massive respect between those two that I think, look, Thurles, I can see why Thurles are rated as favourites by some, but I just think Lockmore, I've been from day one, and like I was at that mid-quarter final back in June in Templemore, and he would have said after 10 minutes, Thurles are going to run away with this. Like, they had more shots. They missed chances, but as the longer the game went on, Lockmore started to play the game on their terms and they ended up winning by 6 points. So I just think if it's that kind of a game, if Lockmore are there or thereabouts middle of the second half, coming down the home stretch, I suppose, who do you trust to get it? Like, Thurles didn't get it done in the home stretch last year against Killadang, and that'll be a big question mark for them. Like, can they get it done in a tight game down the home stretch against? And if they do against Lockmore, it would set them up brilliantly for a county final.
Can I ask you, is there any talk about why your game on Sunday, Lara against Templederry, in the relegation clash, is on at 3:15 in Nina, while that senior semi-final, that second senior semi-final, 4:00 in Thurles? So you, for example, won't get an opportunity to watch both.
It's just the way, I suppose, fixtures are falling, really. I have the Premier Intermediate, second Premier Intermediate semi-final is the curtain raiser in Thurles, and there is a double header of relegation finals in Nina. So you played the first relegation final at 12:00. It's just the way it is. Like, then you throw in there's minor county finals in A and B. You have junior A semi-finals and intermediate semi-finals. A lot, and then in Camogie quarterfinals and senior and intermediate semi-finals. It's just, I suppose, just the way it is. There's just so many games, and I think that's a lot of the reason why maybe people think, crowds are down. They're not really. Like, if you added up everybody at every match, I'd say the crowds are very healthy. It's just when you thin it out a bit, I'd say there'll probably be a good crowd in Nina on Sunday for those 4 teams. I would still think there'll be a strong mid-Tipperary element in Thurles on Sunday, because if you have 3 with Gortnahu as well, and you'd like to think maybe there'll be a strong crowd coming up from Carrigan Shore for the Swans game. It's been a long time since the Swan were played in the stadium, so like that to be a big occasion for them, even if it's a county semi-final anyway, which is big enough. Like so, look, ideally, I'd love to be able to attend both semi-finals, but I won't. I'll be there Saturday, all right. But look, it is what it is.
Okay, well then, just back to your relegation playoff, like Tipperary this year, you know, injuries have certainly been something we've talked about around all their matches. Like Brian Stapleton, Adrian Ryan, they're both apparently unavailable for this match. Garrod Ryan has been nursing a hamstring injury. Liam McCutcheon, another injury worry. Like all year, that has been the story of it. I'd imagine they feel like they haven't had a proper run at this at all.
Yeah, I'd say that is the probably the case. All right, but like I suppose when you get to this time of the year and the back end of the championship, like I'd say, as I've seen with a lot of these relegation games, it's over the years, it's sort of form goes out the window. Lads find that one last maybe surge of something to try and get it out of themselves. So I think we're fully preparing for lads to get the Adrian Ryans and the Brian Stapletons and maybe Lee McCutcheon, who went off against Rothway, to be strapped up and got out onto the field. Like so, it's I was just looking at the Tumi Vara, or the team that played Kilruane in the first round of the championship, or they when they had that great win. Like Adrian Ryan was very, very good that night. P.O. Kennedy's had his injury problems. Ian McCutcheon has had his injury problems. I think Garrod Ryan is struggling with a bit of an injury, but he's been playing through a lot of the games. So, but look, like I've seen Tipperary over the years. They're fantastic hurlers with a great spirit and work ethic and community spirit up there. Like I think, look, they're going to fight on their backs on Sunday no more than ourselves. Like, and like the fact that the weather is turning on Sunday, it's probably going to turn it into a right battle. Like so, it's just the fact that I suppose again, the fact that two of the last three Premier Intermediate champions, one of them is going down. It just shows you like it's how difficult it is to establish yourself once you come up. Like, and the longer you can stay up there, the better. Like I suppose for Tipperary, they've been up there 3 years, and that they have been senior for a long time before that. Before the Premier Intermediate was completely separated from the senior championship. I think that was only for a year. Like so, like since 2008 they won the county intermediate. I think they've been senior all bar one of those years. Like so, like they've got a fair tune out of that Tom Stapleton, Garrod Ryan, Christy Coughlin era, Brian Stapleton of the late noughties that had a great under 21 teams.
Yeah, and then for yourselves, leaving that Nina game out of it, you've performed fairly strongly for the most part, and even against Burris Elite, it looks like you're well on the way to a comeback victory there until JD Devaney's goal kind of stemmed the tide a little bit. But like you must feel that your form in general has been, reflective of a senior team.
Oh yeah. Look, I suppose the Nina game, maybe the first North Championship game against Nina, like they were just as I said, the speed at which teams moved the ball, and like when Nina moved the ball, and there were periods against Burris Lee and Lockmore when they moved the ball, we were struggling to cope. But I would like to think when we have the ball, we were as much of a threat. I thought against Burris Lee was just the fact that I think in the first half we just couldn't win enough of our own puckouts. Like the Burris Lee half back line were just eating it up, and this was a lot of this. Maybe the focus the last few weeks is just trying to make sure we win our own possession. It was like we have. I think our strength of our team is in the forward line. Bonner, the Fogarty zone, McIntyre, Niall McIntyre, Keane Hogan. Like they're all able to score. Conor Kennedy's had a great first year at senior level. So like if they get enough quality service, I think we think we could cause the best defenses a lot of trouble. Like so, like key for us will be getting on more possession at the weekend. So, look at it, it's a massive opportunity. Like if you're offered us at the start of the year another year at senior level, we would have taken it. Like so, not that it was our focus was just about staying up. Like we had ambitions of trying to get out of the group, but it nearly happened if Nina had managed to win against against Lockmore, a draw, we wouldn't be in this situation. But look, it is what it is. We'll go at it on Sunday. Lads I think we have everybody fully fit at the moment, so hopefully we'll get the job done.
Okay, the Premier Intermediate semi-finals, they're on this weekend. Cashel King Cormac against Upper Church Trumban, Saturday at 3 o'clock in Semple, and then on Sunday at 2:15, Carrick Swan against Gurtnahoe Glengool. Like we talked earlier at the top of the show about how Laura getting out of intermediate, then jumping on to Premier Intermediate and so on. Like Cashel, if they could get themselves up to senior, and it won't be easy against Upper Church, who obviously started the season as favourites at this grade. Like this could be huge for obviously for Upper Church, but for Cashel it could be massive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think any of the 4 teams that win the Premier Intermediate, I think they're at a stage where I wouldn't say they're in last chance to lose. Like they're not. I wouldn't say they're over the hill or anything. Like I think all 4 could realistically go up to senior and compete straight away. We know Upper Church can because they've been there. They were there for so long, and they're actually in the mid-senior final last year and still got relegated.
And a county semi-final a couple of years ago as well.
Absolutely. But you just look at the caliber of the Cashel player and how the number of them that were on underage Tipperary teams and the potential they have. You'd be excited by them if they got up senior. I know West Tipperary and Clonoulty Rossmore are hoping that they come up. Like it's a fascinating semi-final on Saturday. Like you think it's the probably the pre-season favourites of Upper Church, but we haven't seen them click at 100% against a team with serious momentum in Cashel, who after the Boer-Lahan match, like I thought, geez, like just the manner that's a very, very good Thurles Sarsfields team, and absolutely destroyed them. Small bit of a setback last night. They lost the County Under-19A semi-final to St. Mary's, but look, that's a good Mary's team too. But just shows you where Cashel are competing at. They're competing at the higher level of A grades, and like I said, the age profile of that team is very, very young. Lots of quality there. It's a fascinating one for me. I've just gone. I went with in my prediction in term. I went for Cashel just with the momentum and they have at the moment. But that's not to say Upper Church. They're used to the stadium. It's not if they get back in there, they might think, okay, this is the day we're going to say, okay, we're ready to go back up. We're ready to show to flex our muscles and show our teeth. They were knocked out of the football championship early, so they've had a good clean run at focusing on hurling the last few weeks. Just the fact that they have been scoring goals lately. Upper Church, they got 7 in their last 2. They got 3 in the first half against Aero McCarthy against the Wind. Like they gave up a lead that they were under the cosh a lot of the second half, but they finished very, very strongly with 6 points in a row. So shows you that their metal is very strong. And then you have Cashel coming with serious momentum. I think this is the makings of a serious match. I'm going with the momentum team here, but it's a very, very hard one to call. I could have come down in Upper Church as well.
Yeah, and like Carrick Swans, against Gurtnahoe Glengool, Carrick Swans form, like South Senior champions, Mullinahone, Killinall, they're there. I mean, their confidence must be through the roof.
Absolutely, yeah. No, like I suppose we've been waiting for the Swan to bring their divisional form out to the county. Like they've whatever it is about the South Championship, when they got into the county, it never floated their boat really. But they've managed to get a click this year. They have a player in Callum Lanigan. I haven't seen him in the flesh yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing him now. Very, very talented player. Like they're just going nicely. But I fancy Gurtnahoe here. As I think they're back to their 2022 form. I think in terms of that, they're further down the road. And I've just got with the stadium too. They know the stadium. I don't think you can underestimate that Gurtnahoe Cup. They've got games in the stadium a couple of years ago. They're under 19s won a county final in there last year. I'd say it could be over a decade since the Swan played there. And the fact that Gurtnahoe, destroyed St. Mary's in the quarterfinal. Like, and they're coming to the boil, and they got Damien Corbett firing again. Like Damien Corbett, who we thought a couple of years ago at underage level, the fact that he wasn't able to start for Gorton, who either said he was out of form or that there was lads and the squad going better, and now that they have him back firing, it's a big shove on. And like they already have good forwards, Keane Hayes, and I just think that the return of Ronan Tehan this year is huge. Like he went travelling last year, and I just think his bit of class and experience on the 40 was missed. But they seem to be back closer to the form of 2022 when they got to the final, and arguably we were very unfortunate to lose to Roscrea. I don't know if you remember, Darrell Ryan, the Roscrea goalie, pulled off some big saves in that game. And when we Gorton who were in playing very, very well. So I'm shading with Gorton who, but I'd love to see if Carrick Swan did win, I'd love the colour they'd bring to county final day, assuming it's a curtain raise with the senior, would be massive. Like, because I know they're like they're a town with 3 different clubs in it, but they love their hurling down there.
There's only about 15-minute drive separating Sean Tracy's in Newport, but one of them going down to intermediate after this weekend.
Yeah, it's they're next door neighbours. Like if anybody who'd be driving, if you were driving from Limerick to Thurles through the Schlee Freedoms, you'd be crossing through Newport into Rear Cross Kilcommon. So Rear Cross Kilcommon is Sean Tracy's. I don't know. I might get to see some of this game before our match. We start focusing on our game, but yeah, this is. I can't think of a bigger sort of derby match in terms of what's at stake, really. Like relegation to intermediate. Like I think for a town of the size of Newport to be a setback to go back senior, and just looking at last week, the under 15A team run to the North Championship 7-14. Like they have a very, very good second team that are in a second semi-final as well. Like they have a very good crop of young lads coming, and that's not to say maybe they wouldn't. Like I think I made a point to you off air that sometimes maybe a team, if you got them inculcated at a lower grade to start winning games, and they might come up a bit quicker. But I think long term, if Newport were at least Premier Intermediate, it would be slightly better. They got Conor O'Mahony back. They brought him out of retirement for the semi-final against Mine Temple 2. Colin Floyd actually didn't start at that game, so he must have been injured. Like can you think of a desperation match like this? Everybody gets wheeled out. I've gone for Sean Tracy's on. Jesus, like it's. But this will be tasty. This if anybody's going to Nina to get their double header, I think this first game will be worth it. And I see they put Alan Tierney in charge of one of the lead inter-county refs from within the county. So obviously, a very good official there. And just it's interesting, and I think I welcome it. And it's the same with our game and the intermediate final, that there's replays involved. Like I think I'd agree with that. I don't like the thought of team being relegated on penalties. Like I think the fact if it's draw in any of the relegation finals this weekend, it goes to a second day. Like so.
But if we had the live stream going and you were there's a sort of a player cam on you as penalties are going on, that'd be enjoyable.
The chin. I couldn't cope with that. So she's thank God there's no replays in these relegation finals, or thank God there's no penalties in the relegation finals.
Right, the intermediate semi-finals, Moneygall against Capoy, Ballingarry against Kilfeacle. All, 2 finely poised games there. Moneygall's 4th semi-final in a row. Like, in terms, like, they've been playing brilliantly the whole lot, romping home against teams, putting up big scores the whole lot. But there is a bit of pressure now. They, given the quality they have, they'll probably feel like, well, we need to get out of this grade at this stage.
Oh yeah, and they're at the perfect sort of age profile where if they get up to Premier Intermediate, I think they immediately go into. I don't think they'll be near relegation next year if they did go up. I think they'll be knockout potential. Could they win it? Potentially, because they have so many good scoring forwards. But I think their Achilles heel is their defence. And I think they conceded 121 against Kickham's. They conceded 313 against Portrue. And I think that's where Capo White will probably be targeting them on the weekend. And that's where Capo White are strong. They have Willie Barry inside, they have Darren McCarthy. They have Rian. They have some good players there in their forward line. Like I think this will be, depending on the weather, I think this will be high scoring. But I just think, I think Moneygall's, they're further down the road than Capo White in terms of where they are. Like, but that's not to say maybe they'll have bad memories if there's a bad weather. Remember, it was a bad weather day against Boherlahan last year and they lost in extra time. And like the longer you stay in that grade, and especially when you're a contender, psychologically the harder it is to get out of it year on year. But like I just think their form at the moment is better than Capo White's. But geez, it's just Capo White. If they have a day of days, right, if they get their forwards to click, like we know they can, and maybe Sean Kennelly or Joe Fogarty has an off day or they're kept quiet, Capo White definitely have the potential to cause an upset, but I think definitely Moneygall are worthy favourites.
Yeah. The other side, I mean, I see more of Golden Kilfeacle, and just again, I think I mentioned the spine before, having Shane O'Connell, Niall Heffernan, Ben Curvin, Jack Leamy. That's just a serious spine at intermediate.
Yeah, but they're a very, very young team as well. I think 7 under 21s. I think maybe all their forward line are under 21, so they're lively, they're quick, this is a very experienced Ballingarry team. The Ballingarry team that have had a very, very good year. Like they won Division 3 the league, they're South champions. They've won all their group games in the county. They're for a team that's unbeaten, they're coming in very under the radar. That's very surprising. And remember, this was the game last year that Golden got the last minute goal to draw. I remember there was a bit of Ballingarry were through, but then the new score difference thing came into play, and actually Golden got through, and Golden ended up in the final. So it'd be interesting to see if Ballingarry maybe get one over in terms of that, get maybe a small bit of retribution. I've gone for Golden, but the more I think of it now, I think could that bit of inexperience maybe in the forwards count against them, and our Ballingarry just a bit more experienced, the quality there with the Ivers and the Fennellys and Dylan Walsh is hurling great stuff. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I've gone with Golden, but the more I think about it, Ballingarry, maybe I'm underestimating Ballingarry a little bit. This'll, I'm gonna say extra time and there'll be a winner there. I think that definitely some of these semi-finals this weekend will go into extra time, this could be potentially one of them.
Yeah. Okay. Then in the relegation, Upper Church Drumban second team are against Ballybacon Grange. How do you see that going?
It'll be a tight one. I think the Church might have beaten them last year in the county championship. If I'm not certain, it'd be a big setback for Ballybacon if they went down back to junior. And I know if it wouldn't help South Junior hurling either. Like South Junior A grade is already bloated as it is, and I know St. Patrick's and Mile Rovers are in Junior A semi-finals this weekend. But I think those teams have it all to do against Killadangan and Holy Cross anyway in those semi-finals. They'll be under pressure to win them. Purely on the basis it's the first team, and maybe Brendan Cummins probably stand over a free 4 minutes in injury time, a draw match from 100 yards, and he sends it over the bar and Ballybacon stay up. Maybe that'll be the storyline.
Okay. Well, look, let's look at the football coming this past weekend. And the quarterfinals, Kilsheelan beat Care 213 to 114. Mile Rovers so off Arravale Rovers convincingly 14 points to 15. Clonmel 112, Ballina 6 points, and Lockmore, Castleiney 212, Brackens 11 points. So, did you see any shock in any of that?
No, I think they all went to form. I was surprised how Lockmore were very comfortable against Brackens. I did think last week it was going to be low score and tight affair. But once Lockmore got up and running early with an early goal, And I watched a lot of the game. Like, it didn't look like they were going to be beaten. And I know Bracken's pushed hard in the second half. They got some smashing long-range points. Shane Doyle, Jack Kennedy got some lovely scores, but just Lockmore always looked dangerous going forward. Always had men coming off the shoulder. Got a very, very good second goal. Had a couple of chances to maybe get a third goal, but just and even when they had a man sent off, can't remember who was sent off. They had a man put off early in the second half. Just so calm, so composed, and they're true. My Rovers did what they were comfortable against Arravale. That's my Rovers against Lockmore in the semi-final. Probably the two form teams in football, so that'll be tasty fair on Sunday week. Commercials, like you were looking at half early in the second half, and it was 6 points apiece between Ballina and Commercials. I think there's a shock here, but Commercials reeled off 1-6. But you look at the Ballina team, Teddy Doyle, Stephen O'Brien, Michael Breen didn't start. Like they just, and with the Hurling, they've just been absolutely devastated by injuries this year. Like O'Brien and Doyle came on, but like they didn't. Arguably, the team, they struggled. They didn't improve the team. They were just off the pace a bit, and I suppose Commercial's cuteness down the home stretch got them that win. Interesting in that game, Commercials are playing Michael Quinnivan at centre back. And I actually, it's an interesting one for me. And I did think towards the end of his time with Tip, he was stifled in a full forward. He was completely dependent on the ball that was coming in. I always thought Michael Quinnivan's best place was centre forward. Because if he got a ball deep and he turned and he there's nobody catching him, his stride is ridiculous. So like if you play him at maybe a sweeper or centre back, and you tell Michael, follow the ball, come off the shoulder, he'll either kick scores himself or he'll make a penetrating run that breaks open a team and maybe gives the pass off the shoulder. So I'd be fascinated to see how that develops maybe against Kilsheelan in the semi-final. Like so, they'd be fancy to beat Kilsheelan, but Kilsheelan, they're a bit of momentum now behind them. Like I don't think they'll be as defensive as they were in the semi-final against Commercial a few years ago when they were a younger team. I think they'll have more of a go for it this time, because I don't think Commercials are the behemoths they were a few years ago. Like they're still very, very strong, but I don't think they're as all dominant. But yeah, I think they're down for a double header in Cashel and Sunday week, those two semi-finals. So yeah, I suppose if you were saying at the start of the year who would the last four be, you would have got Commercials, Lockmore, my Rovers, and either probably Brackens probably would have been the fourth team, but they fell out, and it's Kilsheelan who have a lot of quality in their own right have stepped in.
Okay, touching on the Camogie then, there was some big games. Cashel Kincormac's 3-22, Shannon Rovers 2, Borris-Lee 2-12, Aero Moycarkey Donahill 5-10. Group 2, Burgess Dahara 12 points, Drummond Inch 3-16, and Clonoulty Rossmore 7-23, Silvermines 3-9. So that was a high scoring one there, Shane.
Yeah, there was there's I suppose that was the end of the group stage. Just a little concern in some of the lopsided scores between the top end and the bottom end of senior. I thought maybe the grade might be a little bit more competitive than that, but look, however, I suppose we're at the quarter-final stage next weekend. We have Drummond Inch against Shannon Rovers. You think that Shannon Rovers, and it was actually looked like a full strength Shannon Rovers team against Cashel last weekend, and they only scored 2 points. So you were going in against Drum now, who are absolutely motoring at the moment. So you can only see one winner there. Thurles Sarsfield's very, very good team at the moment. They probably will get the win over Knockavilla Kickhams. I think if there's a team that's going to stop the 6 in a row for Drum, it'll be them. Clonoulty against Anacarty, tasty West Derby. Clonoulty lost 4 finals in a row. They're arguably slightly stronger this year. Sarah Friday is back from her sojourn abroad. She got, was it 4 goals against Silvermines last weekend? So like she's adding to their attack, and Anacarty got that big win over Borris-Lee last weekend, which condemned Borris-Lee to a relegation playoff. Like it's a big setback for Borris-Lee. I think they got to a semi-final last year. Now they have to battle against the Mines to try and stay up. So and then I think the tie it around, it was Dahara against Cashel. I fancy Cashel in this one. I think they're really motor nicely. Like 322 against Shannon Rovers, a big score. Quiva Purdue is flying at Philly Fogarty, blast from the past on that great Tipperary team of 20 years ago. She's playing great stuff. You have the Fahy sisters, Grace and Maloney. I think they might have too much scoring power for Duhara, even if they're making the long trip to Kilcolman. I think if there's going to be a surprise, it'll probably be in that one. I think Duhara will be many people's favourites, but I think Cashel will win that one.
And just a couple of other things before we finish up then. CEO Myrtle Brennan, he made a presentation to the delegates in Tip outlining the costs associated with preparing underage Tipperary team. So you might give us a bit of background on that.
Yeah, I just thought I was at the county board meeting last week, and I just thought it was an interesting thing. But I think, first of all, it was a club had requested a presentation on it, and which is welcome, and it was great to see the new CEO acquiescing to it, and it was just being informative. It wasn't more or less saying being defensive. It was more or less informing the delegates and the clubs of where exactly the money is being spent. And you hear it every year. Tip don't go well. Sure, the money's gone down a black hole. What are we doing with the money? Where's all the money going? And why are gate receipts going up? If people don't see the cost of preparing inter-county teams, you're talking under 14 up to senior. Like, well, the presentation we got was just underage, like 14, 15, 16 under development squads, and that's in around 200,000 a year, hurling and football. Like, that's S&C, that's food, that's physio, that's bus travel. That doesn't include bus travel, because at underage, up to development squad level, it's more or less the parents bring you to Fethard or Thurles or wherever. And in fairness, Murta was he stressed the thanks to the parents who give their commitment, and like maybe sitting in cars for an hour and a half while their sons are training and go home. And it's only at minor level where the buses come into play, where maybe there might be I know for years, the late Bertie Fitzpatrick in North Tipperary would have been the man who bussed all the lads from North Tip down to Thurles and back home maybe after training. And I think under 20s get travel expenses, but of course a lot of them are probably coming from college and stuff. So I just thought it was very informative. It's something I'd like to maybe see done at a lot of regular county board meetings. Just maybe pick an area and like just give the facts, and it might stop an awful lot of this hurler and the ditch nonsense out there. Oh, we're doing this. It's like, what would you say? Opinion that starts turning into fact, and it's nothing. It couldn't be further from the truth. Like, I do get the sense that Tipperary are they're squeezing everything they can out of the apple at the moment. Like, I don't think money has been wasted at all. Like, it's just like inflation. Everything is going up. There's nothing getting cheaper. And I see this next Saturday night they are launching the Win a House in Cashel thing. They're following the likes of Galway and Limerick and Clare, who've done Win a House. They're doing one themselves in Cashel. So big launch night in Brubaroo and Cashel next Saturday night. Nicky English is coming down to make the launch. So yeah, new fully kitted out house in Cashel, Briggon Estate. So, and in fairness, they've incentivized the clubs to get involved in this. Like a lot of these Win a House shows are €100 a ticket, but each club will get to keep €30 of the ticket. So like it's a nice fundraiser for a club. Like if they went after this, and if clubs hold maybe 50 tickets, it's €1,500. Like it's easier than one selling raffle tickets or something at Christmas. Like, so, and like I do think there's an awful lot of goodwill out there for Tipperary GAA, and like we mightn't be going well at intercounty at the moment. I think that the worm will turn at some stage. Like it's underage, and like all this money from the Win a House is ring fenced for infrastructure development. Like, so, and I'm very impressed with Murta Brennan, like in terms of he was more or less saying, the way people might think, they're going to raise money, but it's going to be paying for day-to-day expenses. They've pushed safeguards in place where that can't happen, like where Murta will be a signatory on the account, but if money needs to be drawn down, it has to come from a member of the committee as well. So he just say if Tipperary had a big bill to pay, he can't just delve into that when a house money. It's and because it needs another co-signatory, and somebody from the development committee will say, no, that's not what the money is for. So I love the way that safeguards have been put in place, that if money is ring fenced or something, that's where it is. And I know that I was trying to pull up the latest round of it's the sports capital funding money was announced, and all the TDs are making big announcements there today in Tip of, I think, nearly 9 million for clubs in Tip. Tumi Vara, I know Tipperary GAA got something. Jesus, I think it was nearly. It was up online there yesterday. I think it was more for Dr. Morris Park in terms of gym equipment. 1 second there. I speak in a big one. It might be GA related, but there's a Nina Hockey Club, nearly $500,000 for a new all-weather facility in Nina. Like, that's going to be massive. Like, that could help, and not only hockey but an awful lot of other things. That's Tipperary GA walking track and floodlight. No, what's that? Tipperary. 1 second there. Tipperary County Board, Dr. Morris Gymnasium and gym equipment, 208,000. That's not bad, but I think the big one for Tip will be the large infrastructure grant ones. That's when where you could get millions, or it could be. I believe Tip are in a duel with Fitzgerald Stadium. Fitzgerald Stadium are looking to update their facilities, but you think if you're only going to fund one, you think Thurles has to be the one. Like, it's central, it gets more games, it badly needs a facelift. Like, I just noted on the minutes of the last county board meeting in July. I wasn't at that meeting, but there was 2 letters from Cork supporters given out about the state of the toilets at the Cork Tip game in May. Like, that's a small thing, but it's important. Like, if your supporter experience is not up to scratch, people won't come. Like, and Páirc Keeve is probably is past Thurles out in terms of supporter facilities. Might be the easiest place to get to, but once you get in there, you're comfortable. Like, so hopefully Thurles gets it. Look, for even take you off your Tipperary hat, like, a good second stadium in that part of the country where you could play big championship matches, maybe even All-Ireland semi-final replays if you didn't want to bring it to Dublin, like, or something. Have a good stadium there would be massive, like, so.
And then just the final thing in terms of ratifications, Philly Ryan was officially ratified as the new Tip senior football manager on a 3-year term. Cathal Nocton from Brackens and Paul Cahill from Grange Mochler Ballyneal are involved. More of his backroom team will be confirmed. Brendan Cummins is given a 2-year extension as Tip under-20 manager, and the same with James Woodlock for the minors. So, bit of stability there, certainly, with the hurling.
Yeah. I don't think any of them were surprised. I actually thought Brendan was ratified at the previous meeting for 2 years, but maybe it was proposed and it was officially ratified. So, look, you think he got to Munster finals in 2 of the 3 years. I know there was a bit of disquiet on maybe the tactics against Offaly in the All-Ireland final, but I do think the loss of Paddy McCormack probably robbed Tipperary of an outlet that day in the full forward line. But look, I think it's about evolving, and look at the talent that's coming through. And like, James Woodlock, like, another 2 years, it'll bring his stint as minor manager to 6 years, like, if he finishes it out, like, which is a fair run, like, and like, there's another very, very good crop of young players coming of the next 2 years at minor level, and look, who's not to say he won't win more going forward. It's not about winning, but there's actually no doubt about it. What James Woodlock is doing, it's not about winning. And he said it himself when he was on with us a lot, and he speaks about it a lot in his interviews. It's the values of Tipperary hurling, and you saw the way they won that All Ireland this year with 13 men. Like it was hard work and never say die, and that sort of. But if you inculcate that, like if James Woodlock stayed a minor manager for the next 20 years, I'd nearly give it to him, because if your players are good at that grounded coming out of minor level, like they're well set for hurling and even life after that, if you know what I mean. Like he's more of a, what would you say, he's a manager, but he's more holistic. You probably get that from when you be listening to him. He's very holistic in his approach, isn't he?
Oh yeah,
We're developing men rather than players, like, and they're human beings as well.
Yeah, and players who'll die with their boots on as well.
That's it.
Hope. And more of those will be maturing in the next couple of years, which Tipperary will definitely need. And just in terms of just the GAA coming up this weekend, go and pick up a copy of the Nina Guardian. It's available now. There's a lot of stuff from last weekend and obviously all the stuff coming up this weekend. I think that's it, Shane.
Yeah. Are you coming down for any of the games, or are you hurling this weekend?
No, this weekend off, but it just depends on work scheduling. But I would like to get down. Anyway, look, that's it, folks. We'll be chatting to you all again next week when we, I suppose, try to review whatever happens this coming weekend. Thanks very much, Shane.
Cheers.